Hey everybody, welcome back to the Internet of Things Learning Center. I'm John, and I'm going to walk you through the next step in our series here on getting the Raspberry Pi connected. And so this particular topic will be setting up a headless connection on the Raspberry Pi. So to begin the process, what we have to do is we have to get a few softwares installed on our Windows PC. And if you've already done these, that's fine, that's great. They were in the first video, but if not, we need to take some time and do them now. Specifically, we need to get this advanced IP scanner installed, and we need to get this RPI application installed. Additionally, you can install the PuTTY application, but it shouldn't be required because we can use the RPI application to accomplish the same thing. So, assuming that you've done that and you have those applications installed, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up this advanced IP scanner, and we're going to click Scan. And what this is going to do is it's going to go out and scan the wireless network that my PC is connected on, and it's going to return back the IP addresses of the devices that are connected on that network. Now specifically, we are looking for the Raspberry Pi. So as it's going through here, it's taking a little longer than I thought it would. There's not too much on this network, but I guess there are enough addresses that it has to go through. All right, so there we go. There's the Raspberry Pi, and we can see for me the address is 192.168.1.204. Okay, so we can go ahead and stop this scan. We've got the information that we need. This is all we needed this advanced IP scanner for, was to identify our network address of the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to go down into our instructions a little bit further. See. And what we have next is set up this RPI application. So I'm going to open up RPI, and it'll take a few seconds to get open. There we go. Let me resize this window and bring it into view here. All right, so this is the RPI application. Now mine has I've already taken the first step, and that's to click this new button. And when you click the new button, it'll bring you into a window that looks like this, and you give the document that you're creating a name, and you go ahead and hit OK. So that part has already been done. The next step is to set up the SSH connection. Okay, and so this is that connection that we could do with the PuTTY application, but we're going to use RPI to do this in this instance. So what we would do is we go up here to this Add button, we click it, and we would come down and we would create a terminal based on PuTTY. We'll click OK. We go ahead and give it a name, so I'm just going to call this PuTTY terminal. It is an SSH connection. The port number is 22, that's all correct. And what I want to do here is I can either put in the word Raspberry Pi, which is the name of my device on the network, or I can put in the address. In this case, I'm going to put in the address, so 192.168.1.204. All right, and I'm going to click Next. And it's asking me some questions about how I want things to display. And we'll go on and we'll get the color questions, and I'm skipping right through all of those. What I want to get to is this credentials question. And right now it says do not use any credentials, but we want to change that. I want to use a set of existing credentials. I created these earlier. In your case, you won't have them yet, so you'll click this Add button, and then you'll add your own credentials. In my case, I already had them, so I will simply use the ones that I had. we can go ahead and edit that so you can see what you would have to populate. So you're simply making a name for it, identifying what the username is, and then what the password is. Now on the Raspberry Pi, the username by default is Pi, and the password by default is Raspberry, all lowercase. So that's what I've populated this with. And at this point, we can hit OK, and it creates our connection. And we can see it over here on the right. And we can move these connections around. I can put this up underneath my connections area so that it's all grouped together. All right. So we have our Raspberry Pi. It's booted up on the network. And at this point, I would like to initiate a PuTTY terminal connection. So I'm going to go ahead and double click that. And I get this warning message that potentially there's a security breach, and that's because we're making a connection. So I'm going to say yes. And the advantage of using RoyalTS is seen right here. By establishing those credentials for the connection, it went in and it logged us right into the PuTTY terminal. We didn't have to supply any more information. We didn't have to type any credentials in. It put them in for us, and we're good to go. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to do an installation of an application called XRDP. So I've got that in this window here somewhere. Let me get down here so I can just cut and paste rather than having to type all this in. But this is the instruction we need. It's a sudo apt-get install XRDP. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that over. I copied it, paste it in. You can paste in with a right click, and I'm going to hit enter. And so it's going out and it's reading the package, and it's going to do the installation. Now, these installations can take some time, and when we get to the actual update of the Raspberry system, it will take a significant amount of time. So I'll pause the video at that point. For now, we're going to say yes to this question. It's simply asking if we want to use the disk space, and we're going to let it do that. And it's going to continue on here. All right, so as that goes, we'll let that installation complete. I'll go ahead and pause this. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to take. Okay, so our installation of XRDP has completed. And so what we want to do next is to do an update of the Raspberry system. Now, this update simply goes out and looks to see if there's changes in the libraries. And again, like I said, this can be rather time consuming. So we will get this going, then I'll pause the video, and we'll continue on after that. Okay, so there we go. The update has completed, and so now we're going to run the next piece, which is to see if the the items that are there to go ahead and complete the upgrade of the Raspberry Pi. So again, I'm copying the command here, going back to the terminal window, pasting it in. I'm going to go ahead and hit some backspaces here and make sure I didn't have those spaces at the end. That minus sign is actually important. The command does require that. And I'm going to hit enter, and off it goes to do its upgrade. I need to go ahead and say yes to this question of using the disk space and let it work. So again, I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll come back in a few minutes and we'll do the next piece. Okay, so here we are after our upgrade is completed, and we want to do the next step in the process, which is to install the tight VNC. So let's go ahead and head back over to our source document, and we'll get this instruction. And go ahead and pull that in and paste. And so we want to say yes to this question. And we're going to let this thing work. And in a minute, it's going to ask us to provide a password for the type VNC server. And there's a space in between there, and so we're going to go ahead and activate the server. And I think that's one of our question. There it is. So Raspberry without the Y. Confirm it. And then we're going to say no to this question. I do not need view-only password. And there we go. All right, so at this point, we have the type VNC server running, and it's running on this on the first port here. So what we want to do is we want to come back into our Royal TS, and we want to set up this RDP connection. So let's do that. Come here. I'm going to click Add. I'm going to click Remote Desktop Protocol. And let's go ahead and call it, let's call it RDP for our example. We go ahead and put our IP address in, so 192.168.1.204. And we'll go ahead and say next here, next. Now you remember on the SSH connection I said to supply credentials. In this particular connection, we do not want to supply credentials, and that is because with there's an intermediary software here that establishes the connection for this RDP, and for whatever reason, it doesn't like to have credentials supplied to it. So for this one, we're just going to say okay. All right, and we can see where our PyRDP connection got created right here. So let's go ahead and double click on it. And it should come up here in just a second with this. This is that intermediary I was talking about. And so we supply the credentials here. So we're going to type in Pi and Raspberry and enter. And we can see that it's logging us on. And it is a little, you know, it is communicating over the network, and it can be a little choppy on the video. But I have found that whether I use the type VNC client or I use the RDP session, they all behave about the same. But this, to me, is, matter of fact, I actually think the RDP behaves a little bit better. And this connection with RDP, and you could actually do a type VNC connection as well inside of Royal TS. But you know, this one is simple. It works. I like it. And so you know, you're welcome to try anything you want. But for me, this one's the way I like to go. And then you know, just as any other remote connection, you can go in and look at settings and change screens and control your Pi from this, as well as still in this particular window, we still have access to our terminal window. So we can run commands against the Pi in the terminal window and go right back over to our visual side in the RDP and have access there as well. So I think that'll about do it for this video, and the next one we'll look a little bit deeper into the Pi and things that we can do. Probably do a little bit of making as far as connecting with the GPIO pins and see where we take it next. Thanks.